We are, let me see. Oh, yeah, we are going to move to the next city from India all the way to Sweden, to Östersund, which I learned, although it's located in central Sweden, it is the beginning of northern Sweden as well. And if you wonder what's there, it's actually a beautiful co-working space we had the chance to discover this year called Gomorron. We were supposed to have Maria and Jenny with us. Jenny sadly is sick. If she's watching this, we miss you dearly. But I'm going to invite Maria to join me. Hello, Maria. Are you here?
I am. Hello, Colin.
Yes.
Lovely to
How
see
are
you.
you? Likewise.
I'm fine. It's very cold outside today,
Oh,
so
really?
everyone is freezing. It's minus 25 degrees Celsius, which is very uncommon for March.
Okay,
But
I was
yeah,
going to ask you to define really cold, and now I know minus 25. Okay, that sounds very cold. I'm really excited to have you here. I mean, we've met very recently, thanks to Coast Action, and then I had the chance together with Dimitar to come and see you in person in January, and now I'm delighted that you can make it today to be with us to talk about Gomorron. But I imagine that people watching this do not know you yet. So may I start by asking you to introduce yourself and what do you do?
I can do that, of course. My name is Maria Svensson Wiklander, and I'm not born in this town, but I spent most of my life living here. I've been outside in Europe living for a while, but came back when I was about 30 and was expecting my first daughter. I have 3 daughters, and I live outside of the city, approximately 2.5 Swedish miles. And I am one of the co-founders of Gomorron Östersund and the Remote Lab, which is another company that we run. Yeah, 3 cats, as many as my daughters.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I didn't know you had 3 cats. That's cool. You just started to touch based on Gomorron. So can you maybe walk us through what pushed you guys to create a co-working space?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I think that we need to kind of do the background story as well. Östersund is a small town, or a medium-sized town in Sweden. It's the only town in our county in Jämtland. And it's located about 200 kilometers from the nearest town. So it's fairly alone where it is. And we used to have a big military ground here with different military camps around. But as Sweden demounted all the military actions in the beginning of the 2000s, or in the end of the 90s, we lost a lot of working possibilities then. But what happened was that a lot of entrepreneurs stepped forward. And Östersund has been, it's very based on the tourism industry. We haven't had any big like industrial production companies or anything like that. So a lot of small entrepreneurs and small companies and medium-sized companies has been thriving here. You don't move to Östersund because of work, you move because of lifestyle. So a lot of skiing, a lot of mountain biking in the summer, and a lot of running and stuff like that. So it's a lifestyle community and lifestyle city to live in. What happened in the beginning of or after 2010 approximately was that a lot of people moved in, or before that as well, and things started to happen. A lot of like different initiatives started to happen, and I moved into Östersund, and I was missing some kind of network between things. So I founded a network called Hungry, which basically was that anyone who was interested in developing the city could join in. So we did, and one of the activities that we did was TEDx, a TEDx event. So we started TEDx in Östersund, and that's where I met Jenny. And Jenny had the idea that we should start a physical place to host all these entrepreneurial people that we had collected in the network. So we started working on that and founded Gomorron in 2016 in December, the company, and we started our first place in 2017 and been growing since then. So that's basically the history of the place.
I have two follow-up questions. One of them is about Östersund as a city, and the other one is about the space. So let me first start with Östersund. In order for people who are not super familiar with Sweden to understand, how would you say Östersund compares to other cities around the country? What is it known for?
Well, Östersund is very known for skiing. We have big ski resorts outside of Östersund called Åre, which is pretty familiar to skiers around the world. But also for big sport events and stuff like that. We have been applying for the Olympic Games, etc.
Oh, okay.
Several times. So that's basically the history. But nowadays, it's I would say it's been turning. It's known for its entrepreneurship and also a lot of different initiatives coming from here, growing all over Sweden, and a very tolerant and inclusive place to be. I think it defines the city. To Östersund, approximately 1% move because of work. The rest moves because of lifestyle. So it's a very specific place for that, and that's not common among other places. And if we look at the big picture of the northern Sweden, a lot of green transformation is happening, especially in the coastline. But we haven't got that big establishments or like industries coming here yet. But there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of things happening in the northern Sweden, and a lot of focus on northern Sweden within Sweden today. So we get a more attention and more money comes into this region as well nowadays.
And you said you said earlier that you started Gomorron in 2017, like the first space. When you guys started, did you feel like locals understood what you were creating?
No, not at all. Not at all. They didn't have a clue what we were starting. We had to kind of explain, we had to show what we were going to do. So we put a lot of own resources into it, time, and also engagement, of course. I was running 2 other companies at the time, and I was running them remotely. So I was renting places at different offices as well. So it was something that I needed myself as well. But yeah, but we engaged a lot of people in the process before. So a lot of people were collaborating how the result would be. So for instance, we had groups focusing on the business model and other groups focusing on the place itself, and including people early in the process was key. Because when we opened, we had basically all seats taken. So been profitable since day one in our space. So that was a key thing to do.
And now you guys operate 3 spaces, if I'm not mistaken, right, in Östersund?
Yeah, actually 4 spaces, because we have 3 spaces that is dedicated for companies, and then we have 1 separate space dedicated to public sector. So it's integrated in a way, but also isolated from the other place, or one other place.
Then can you elaborate a little bit on how each space maybe is a bit different from one another, and which community uses which of your spaces?
Yeah, the first space that we opened was 250 square meters, and then we expanded it to be like 550 square meters. And in that space, we had mostly fixed desks, but also some flexible seats or hot desks. And when we started our second place, we did that because we had companies who had grown so much that they didn't fit into that community anymore. They needed their own space, but also they wanted to sit together and they wanted to be a part of the community. So the second space was more dedicated to these 2 companies. And when we opened our third space, which is our largest space where I'm at now, we wanted to basically take the feeling of the first place and integrate it to the new place, because we feel that when companies grow too big, their own culture starts to be more isolating, or they tend to isolate towards themselves instead. So you need to have a good mix of big and big companies, and then also one-offs or one person from a specific company. So we have tried to mix that more. But we also feel that now when we have these two spaces that are basically the same, one is more quiet and one is more lively. And since we've been working a lot on our new space, we've been physically present more there, which also means that a lot of more activities is happening there. So we try to adjust that now. People tend to kind of, even though we are just physically present, they come up with initiatives and ideas. But if we're not present, that there is a lack of that. So we try to kind of adjust that more now.
I just want to show people viewing this now that only video I made, the first moment I entered your space for the first time. This is the video I made when it was like evening, I think after work. And we entered, and that's the first video I found on my phone when I was preparing the event today. So the person, I mean, Maria, you can talk about it, but I just want to say that this is Emil, right? The person with the guitar next to the camera, and he's the community manager of the space, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah, he was.
Sorry, go for it.
No, he was also our first tenant, our first one to sign, because he was running his own company when we started.
And the space that people see here is like the one that you are referring to, which is the newer one, right?
Yeah, it's the kitchen.
Yeah. And
exactly.
For me, it's very special because I feel what you are saying as you guys are kind of like a magnet. You attract a lot of humans within your space. Like, as you see now, people were just like, we entered and they were jamming on a guitar. But across our time, we saw so many different scenarios happening. And one thing I want to ask you is like, how do you manage all those people to come to Gomorron and to be with you guys? Like, how did you guys grow that attraction towards the space?
I think that the key thing is that we did something that we needed ourselves and that we loved to do. Basically, we have jam sessions on Tuesdays and Wednesdays because we love to make music ourselves, and we've been missing out on like grown-ups that are not that like professional in their instrument. There's hardly any chance to play with others if you're not in a band. So we wanted to do that ourselves, and people were keen on doing that as well. So basically the needs that we have ourselves and that the community has, it's if you do something that you love, it will inspire others as well. If you have kind of the naive image that anything is possible and you start doing things, people will see that in anything is possible, and we can do that as well. When we were off on a break now, which is kind of key in this, because we do a lot of activities, and we do activities that we know are good for people, good for mental health, good for psychological safety, good for physical health, etc. Like go running or take a sauna or go take a cold bath, or music, or go skiing, etc. But we drive a lot of activities in the beginning, but then people start doing things themselves that they want to do. And we were on a break. We have a strong policy that when kids are off school, we are also off work. So we have all the holidays we are not working, and we don't manage the places. They need to manage it themselves. And this last break that we had, people were actually doing the breakfast themselves, and they were like, all these things were happening. So it's also important to take a step back to allow people to take place, and they do that. So it's like magic. but it's really nice to see. So just taking a step back as well and allowing people to grow and do things, it's also very important.
And you are, of course, home to a lot of fascinating people, but also projects. Like I remember when we came visit you, you have the local showroom of IKEA. Can you talk to us of how did that come about?
Yeah, one of the other co-founders, Anders, he had another project with the floating student houses in another city called Sundsvall, just 20 miles from Sweden, or from Östersund. And and they were involving IKEA in that project, and he actually just asked. And that was a super good timing because IKEA is not present in Östersund. The closest store is 200 kilometers away, and they are not allowed to enter the market if they don't have a physical presence. So what we did was actually make a collaboration together with them so they could use our space to plan kitchens together with the customers. So they had kitchen planners in our space, which sat down with customers and actually was in our kitchen, feeling and touching on things, and decided what kitchens they wanted to have, and then they could order it, and they got then the kitchen shipped home, basically. So that's a way. That was a way for IKEA to enter the market in our county, but also for us to basically have our place as a showrooms, which then allowed IKEA to put all the furnitures in there, and we could basically open immediately with a lot of help from IKEA. But it was profitable for both of us, and it was a really good collaboration. So they've been expanding that, but it was the first time that IKEA opened up a space outside of their stores. So it's been discussed a lot, and they've been having a hard time and a good time, the people who were behind that idea from IKEA. But it turned out well. So they've been, it's been a good inspiration internally for IKEA as well.
So now we talked about your community of people. We just gave the example of one company that you collaborate with, which is IKEA. Now I want to ask you about the last component, which is the city of Östersund. Did they collaborate with you in any way? Do they support you in any way in what you're doing?
We've been collaborating with them in different ways along the years. In the beginning, they did do a project together with us, which allowed us to take in external speakers for events, for instance, and also to market the place or to market Östersund. But that was a limited project, but we do have a very good dialogue both with the politicians and the leadership of the municipality, and it has always had that. So we've been fortunate to have a good communication, and we do different projects together with them basically all the time. So it's a never-ending dialogue that we have.
And you said you guys started in 2017. We are in 2023. So how have you seen your spaces change over the years?
Well, people come and go, and that's one of the hard things and the good things as well. Like you fall in love with people when they come, and you develop this deep connection and relationship with people, and then they move or they change workspace or they change work. But I think that the community itself hasn't changed that much. It's been this tolerant and inclusive and very loving community from the start. We've been including them in a lot of big decisions that we've had, and we still use them as some kind of ballpark for new ideas and stuff like that. But what we have been, people are, since we have bigger spaces, we allow them to grow more than we did in the beginning, of course. So we have bigger companies than we had before. and we have more companies as well. But one thing that we found quite early was that a lot of the new companies coming into Östersund, they were using our space as a growing ground. And during the years, a lot of companies have been growing in Östersund. And that's actually something that we're looking into more now in research. We're just formulating an article around that, where we went out to different co-working spaces in Sweden and looked at, for instance, how companies use co-working spaces to establish their company in a specific city. And 100% of the respondents in that study tells us that it's all because of one person or a talent, like they want to recruit exactly that person, or a person chooses to move to that place. So it's been a lot of companies have been like growing up, popping up, which of course expands the network as well. So, and we've been more active within other topics and areas as well. So our view of co-working and our view of remote work, for instance, have been changing during the years, but I don't think that the community and the feeling in the community has changed that much.
And just to backpedal on the research element you mentioned, if people were interested in checking it out, is it on the Remote Lab website?
It's not published yet. It
Okay.
will be published in a couple of weeks.
Okay. We'll just put the link of Remote Lab in the recap of the event, and people can just follow you guys so they can stay tuned.
Yeah.
What would you say, what do you find challenging about running Gomorron?
I don't think I think that a mutual thing for the three of us co-owners that, or co-founders, that is active in the company, is basically that we don't see that many challenges. we tend to focus on the opportunities and have this naive view of the world that anything is possible. I don't think that we've ever discussed challenges. Actually, it's a hard question.
Then let me ask, what would you need more of?
What we need more of, and actually what's something that we're working on right now is we got a lot of questions from other co-working entrepreneurs that is just starting their new spaces. And there's a lot of policies in Sweden that is not adjusted to our industry, and the industry itself is not recognized in Sweden. For instance, we did a report last year about how many co-working spaces there are in Sweden, and that was so many more than was previously known. So more awareness of the industry itself, so that we, for instance, could be a part of the innovation system in Sweden, and that we could apply for funds in a good way, like always trying to like formulate about what we are doing and how that contributes to the society. It's we always have to teach people about co-working and what it is. So that's something that we're working on.
Yeah,
more recognition of the industry.
Yeah, I relate to that because we do we do it on a different scale and with a different audience, and I think it's something I was also pointing out in the beginning of the presentation, that one of the drive for co-working to grow is people. So if people are not aware of co-working, how can they even, become a part of those spaces? So the educational component is really, really important. And now if we reflect a little bit back on the overall experience of creating Gomorron, what would you say as Maria? What's the biggest learning you take out of this experience so far?
The biggest learning, or the biggest output for me, is definitely meeting all people all day. Like how people engage in things. It's just beautiful, and how they share things, and also how a place can be so valuable for people. Like the best the best things someone can say about our place is that it feels like home, and that's something that we want to create, of course. And I think that a lot of stories that come up includes that I feel that this is my safe place, or I feel that I'm included in things, and I feel that I'm part of something, which is it's very beautiful, and it's something that I haven't been experiencing in that way, like everyday way that we are doing now, and how much people contribute with.
Yeah,
all the time.
Yeah. And you guys also, you have when we came to visit you, what I found really interesting is also the space that was more for like civic servants, or more like public, how can I say, like not
Public
municipal,
sector.
yeah, public sector. I was looking for the word. Is it also something that you guys are pursuing in your effort to, you know, keep on educating and teaching about co-working?
Yeah, it is. And something that we have to be aware of, basically, it's not, you always talk about personal and private and things like that when you do work related things, but there is actually no, like, we are one person, and we are a whole person, which includes both things that happen in our private space and also in our workspace. And it's really hard to separate those. And if you want to like get everything from a person, you need to include all aspects. You need to be able to tell if something is wrong, or if you lost a parent, or if you're sad about something for that day. It's super important. It allows for you being comfortable in sharing other things relating to your work. If you're not there, if you're not in that level, you will always think about like, what can I share and what can I not share, etc. But if you are like there as a whole person, you are allowed to actually solve challenges or problems, or make solutions for the future together with others that you wouldn't be. And that's especially true for the public sector, where you actually are in a role more than maybe in the private sector. So that's a big difference between how they are used to work and how they are working at Samverket, which our public sector co-working space is called. And it's the first initiative, it's the first co-working space for public sector in Sweden. So it's a very new phenomenon for them. And it's a new way of working, and it's based on different research that they haven't really thought about before. The research of strong and weak ties, how we form networks, how we are close to people and what they give us and what our network give us. And also the theory about the third place and all the aspect that builds that, which of course is psychological safety is one of the main things. So it's something that we work a lot with, but more intentionally maybe. With name tags, for instance, so that you don't feel embarrassed when you forget someone's first name. You can still like catch it up and continue talking to them instead of avoiding them because you forgot it. And so it's different, but it's something that we're working more intentionally with there.
Yeah, and I remember, because when we say public sector, you also connect different entities of public sectors. You don't just do it for one particular, I don't know, entity. You do it for the police and like other entities to interact with each other.
Yeah. So it's municipalities, governmental organizations, and regions, and it's the whole spectrum. A lot of different organizations.
I have one last question for you. If you could give one piece of advice to viewers right now thinking of opening a co-working space in their town, what would it be?
I think including the local society in building that. We have been discussing about like opening other, or we've gotten inquiries that you should open Gomorron in Stockholm, or you should open Gomorron in that or that part. But we don't live there. We don't know the local society there. We don't know the needs and prerequisites that are in a specific place. And it's different. You can't just copy paste a thing and make it happen in the same way. All places are different, and you really need to kind of interact with the local companies and local society in order to see what's strong in that place. In that way, you can also like engage them in making decisions, and they feel ownership over it, and it becomes easier to attract people to come there and to grow the community quick. So yeah, interact people and distribute the leadership and distribute the decision making more.
Those are great pieces of advice. Maria, thank you so much for being with us today. I just want to invite everyone watching this now or later to first check out your website, and I will also add the URL of the remote lab so people can see the research you're carrying. But most importantly, if you want to have a feeling of the magic, thanks Dimitar for pulling the link. If you want to be part of the magic a little bit via social media before moving to Östersund, you can also see the Instagram account of Gomorron, where you have a good feeling of what's happening there on the daily. I mean, we've told you a lot. We can't wait to return because we loved what we experienced very much. It's, I think, transformed us in a way that we still can't express. We are a very big fan of your work and of everything you guys do, because it's so important. So thank you for all of that, and I really hope to see you and the team very soon.
Thank you for that. And there's a lot of space in Östersund, so it's just take your things and move here.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
We are very close
25 degrees cold.
That's okay. I'm not scared. Not scared. That's fine. Thank you, Maria. Have a great rest of the day.
Olin. Yeah, you too.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.
See you. Bye.